Forbes, I'd like to go inside. Please assist me.
Until further notice, sir, the club is closed to members and guests.
I'm not here for a scotch and soda. I wish to examine the premises.
Impossible. Only authorized representatives of the constabulary are allowed inside.
What are you playing at, you deluded martinet? You...
Your attitude is deplorable, Forbes, but I suppose I must oblige you. My brother wondered if the fire brigade might have missed anything.
Nothing, Mr. Holmes. You've come in vain.
Any items or circumstances that seem not in accord with a gas explosion?
The brigade is satisfied that there's no evidence to the contrary.
Any odd or personal effects discovered?
No. Nothing of a private nature has been removed from the club. I'm sworn to protect members' property, and I will perform my duty.
Were you badly injured in the explosion, Forbes?
A flesh wound, Mr. Holmes. It's of no significance.
Always the good soldier, what? Where is your wound?
Let's say in the vicinity of my nether regions.
An ex-soldier wounded on his backside. Probably has not improved his disposition.
Let's not belabor the obvious, Doctor. Forbes, what happened after the explosion? Did you notice anything unusual?
I was stunned. Not myself for a few moments.
You saw no one on the street when you revived?
No one except yourselves. I'll honour the inspector's request. The yard, CID and all. Respect for authority is the cornerstone of civilization. Must maintain discipline. Would have preferred a personal appeal.
Indeed, I'll tell him you felt slighted. He's sure to be mortified. Did you happen to spy any suspicious persons lurking about earlier?
I tolerate no loitering on my watch, Mr. Holmes. Members don't like it. If I so much as sniff a tradesman, I move them along sharpish.
Let's not tarry, Forbes. We'll go in now.
I warn you that it's dark and nasty inside.
That suits my mood down to the ground.
And I remind you, touch nothing.
Has anyone worked on the gas lines in the last day or so?
Checked and bled by Midlands last week. All in perfect order. Like Inspector Lestrade says, gas accidents are the price of progress.
Depend on Lestrade for a cliché in lieu of exercising his brain. The Lectio Facilior is fine for paleography, but it won't do for logic. The man's reasoning powers are abysmal. Do you remark anything odd about the entry, Forbes?
Well, it's burned and soaked with water, isn't it?
I mean, anything unexpected?
No, the place is a mess. I'll have to clean it up. I've asked you not to touch club property. Put that back, if you please.
Forbes, my brother's snuff box is not included in your purview. Do not make yourself an unbearable nuisance. Watson, where did we find Mycroft exactly?
It was just here, Holmes, beneath his portrait. You swept him up in your arms as if he were a child. Your strength amazed me.
Adrenaline, Doctor. Danger animates and strengthens as often as it paralyzes. Impressions, Doctor?
It is difficult to be very observant in such conditions. I am surprised by the uneven nature of the damage. With a few structural exceptions, the easily flammable object suffered most.
Very astute, Watson. Mycroft never travels far without his snuff box.
Must have fallen from his pocket when he was struck down.
Unlikely. His other personal effects were undisturbed by the explosion.
What is your hypothesis?
Any speculation would be less than idle. I imagine it was blown in from somewhere. The lid might tell a story. I'll keep the box as a memento. Forbes, the lounge appears wrapped in morning bombazine.
It hardly matters. There's nothing to see.
You'll excuse me if I should come to a different conclusion.
Suit yourself. Remember, touch nothing. Club rules must be enforced, even in...
Please don't put yourself out. We can get on by ourselves.
You may think so. It's my job to monitor the activities of strangers.
Watson, what do your feline orbs espy?
Outlines, Holmes. No real details. The smoke plays tricks with the light.
Touch nothing, Mr. Holmes. I'll have to charge your brother an assessment.
Was your clock face near the grandfather, Watson?
It was, Holmes. How did you guess?
You know my methods, Doctor. I do not guess. I observe. I deduce. Anything of significance, Watson?
Not that I can see, which isn't much.
I'd like more of what you found, or your skill in finding it.
I wouldn't call it skill, Holmes. It was dumb luck.
Most men's modesty is a sham or an excuse, Doctor. Your modesty becomes you. Are you guarding the perimeter, Forbes?
This seems the best vantage point, Mr. Holmes.
Considering the upper story could collapse at any moment and crash down on our heads.
What? Oh, right, yes. Out of harm's way. Very unstable. Another reason to touch nothing.
Did Sir Hubert expire in his chair?
The old gentleman was lucky. Never knew what hit him.
Lucky? Is there any predicate to murder victim more inapt than lucky?
You can't prosecute the gas board for an accident.
Spare me your opinion, Forbes. He was murdered as surely as if he took a bullet to the brain. I don't suppose you have a bullseye lantern, Forbes.
As it happens, I do not.
I'm not surprised. Fortunately, we are not dependent on your effects. Have Sir Hubert's people been notified, Forbes?
He had no family, Mr. Holmes. Outlived them all. The Diogenes was kith and kin to him these many years. Good tipper he was. I'll miss him.
Your sentiment is touching. Forbes, were any of your own possessions lost in the blast?
Not that I know of. Have you found something of mine?
I'm not certain.
I've asked you not to touch anything, Mr. Holmes. That's club property.
Did the fire brigade uncover or remove any personal items from the room?
They briefly combed through the debris, discovered ashes, wood, splinters, broken bricks.
A simple no would suffice. I'm reasonably familiar with the language.
Mr. Holmes, I've told you, touch nothing.
I could move it with my shoulder, but it's not worth being crushed by the falling rubble. Watson, do you have a bullseye? It's as dark as a rent collector's heart over here.
I don't have mine, Holmes. Battery's gone. What do you need?
I'd like to shed some light on the situation rather than curse the darkness. Come, Watson, let's carry on.
If we must, Holmes. This is a deuced gloomy place.
These timbers must be hewn.
I'm no lumberjack, Holmes, and we have no saw.
There's more than one way to fell a tree. I put it to you, Forbes, that before the explosion a man entered the club carrying a valise.
No one could enter the club with a case without my notice. I am responsible and trusted.
Your competence is not at issue, Forbes, but I promise prevarication will ruin you. Now, could anyone have entered the club with a case?
A stranger did come in while I was at my tea. Saw his head and shoulders as he walked to the lounge. Average sort of youngish gentleman, presentable. Had flat eyes like an animal. His party must have been out because he left a minute later. He's the only possibility, Mr. Holmes, I swear.
Thank you, Forbes. That's very satisfactory. Watson, might I have a word?
What is it, Holmes?
Do you see a way to dislodge that particular beam without loss of life or limb?
Remove it from a distance. But Forbes will be unhappy if you interfere with that pile.
Then he must be distracted. Watson, I was just thinking of that embalmed armadillo.
Do tell, Holmes.
The military implications are momentous. Impenetrable armor plating, low to the ground. Indefatigable diggers. Perhaps they could be bred larger and taught to fire a cannon. I'll get on to the War Department, shall I? You might analyze the shelves. Was the destruction of the book selective or random, based on Babbage's principle of non-discriminating violent action?
As you say, Holmes.
Excellent, Watson, excellent.
Just a moment, Doctor. I'll superintend your activity. Mr. Holmes appears to have gone daft.
Here's the little darling, unexpected and therefore most interesting, but an expert would find it even more illuminating. I believe we exhausted the possibilities of this location, Watson.
I hope that you have taken more away from here than I. The fumes are making me woozy.
I hope you're satisfied.
You'd be the last to know, Forbes.